全没甜味，快别解释一种。
大家好，歡迎嚟到拔檔閒談啊！今日咧就做一個人物專訪啊！知啦！今日呢人物專訪咧就相當之傳奇。你哋正話見到嘅佢就點樣係由一個蘭桂坊 DJ 搖身一變成為一個奧運滑雪國家代表選手啊！仲記唔記得1988年有一隊雪橇隊代表牙買加出賽，喺加拿大卡加里比賽，仲拍埋片添。而佢呢，將會就係第一位代表牙買加比賽嘅高山滑雪運動員。佢個名就係 Benjamin Alexander。
Hi, I'm Benjamin Alexander, on my way to Beijing 2022 as Jamaica's first ever alpine ski racer. Hi to everyone in Hong Kong and hello to BaDang.
I know you have been working in Hong Kong.
Yeah, I used to work in finance on Conduit Road, but then I was DJing in Lan桂坊.
Lan桂坊, I see. So, do you like the place?
Yeah, Hong Kong is fantastic. It's like a city from the future. Everything is so well organized and so efficient in comparison to when I come back to Europe.
Yeah. So now you are the ski athlete, huh? In Hong Kong, how you train your ski skill?
Yeah, good question. When I was living in Hong Kong, I'd never skied before. So I lived in Hong Kong from 2009 through 2012. I didn't 2016.
2016. Oh. So you just have 5 years?
Next year, it'll be 6 years of skiing. Yeah.
I see. What draws you so high interest that you fall in love in ski?
No, it's the freedom of being out there in the mountains and this incredible terrain with nature and just like out in the snow and just going fast without the sound of an engine or a motor and just being free to explore these landscapes that I didn't have around me when I was a kid. That's what I love about skiing.
Are you happy with your ski gear?
I love it. I'm wearing some Lenz right now. You can see the black and the red. One of the things that I said to the guys at Lenz when I first reached out to them is that because I'm so tall, I'm almost 2 meters, I really have troubles with my toes. My toes get so cold out there. And I was training in Montana in the USA. My coach said to me, you should really try this company Lenz. And I reached out and they thought it was a great idea to partner up, and it's been awesome, really, really good.
Do you love your ski boots?
Yeah, so my ski boots come from one of my other sponsors, Atomic, and they are race boots, which means they are built for performance. They're super heavy, they're not built for comfort, they're not built for warmth, they're just built to be as fast as possible. So it's really important that I'm able to get my Lenz socks inside of these really, really tight race boots. Much so that when I had the boots custom fitted to my feet, I made sure that I was wearing the Lenz socks before I had the boots fitted so that I know they would fit.
Do they work for a pair of good insoles for you?
So I have handmade from the factory on the machine that they have, and I also use another custom pair from another brand, another sponsor as well.
Are you planning to have a time to come to Hong Kong to visit us?
I have so many friends in Hong Kong, some of whom have had babies that I haven't even had the chance to see because of the pandemic. Unfortunately, with the travel restrictions, I have to go into Beijing and then straight back out of Beijing. I don't have the opportunity to choose to go and stay in Hong Kong.
Yes.
It would make me quarantine for 3 weeks, so as soon as I can get there without quarantine, I would love to be there.
We are wondering, do you have sufficient time when you arrived at Beijing, then have time to train in the new race course?
When I get there, I will arrive on, shall we say, the 3rd or the 4th, and my event is not until the 13th, so we have lots of time to train.
I wish you will have a very good racing event and all the best in Beijing ski slope.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Take care.
Take care to you too. Bye bye. 你見剛才嗰個訪問呢，係佢上機之前呢，捉住佢咁講幾句，所以嚟得倉促。如果大家有興趣知道佢點樣由蘭桂坊 DJ 轉做 Alpine Skier 嗰個進一步嘅資料同嘅歷程嘅話呢，可以再繼續睇下以下呢段先前同佢做嘅訪問。
Okay, so born and raised in England to a Jamaican father and an English mother. I didn't get the opportunity to ski as a child. We don't have the beautiful mountains that you have here in Austria with more chairlifts than any human being can count. And so it's something you either fly and travel to, or you jump on the horrendous dry slopes, which are not that fun. It wasn't until much later in life, when I was 32, that I was invited to join my friends at a heli ski trip in British Columbia, Canada, not to go skiing, merely just to kind of hang out with 30 of my friends while they were skiing at the lodge, and just kind of to celebrate Christmas together. During this trip, we were, those of us that weren't skiing were invited to go onto the top of the mountain and join the skiers for lunch. And at the end of this trip, the skiers just popped on their skis and just disappeared off the side of the mountain. Now, growing up in England, where we are lucky to get 10 centimeters of snow every 3 years, being on top of the mountains, and I hadn't had much experience of being in the mountains firstly, and in the depth of winter where there's more snow than I could have ever imagined, I was just blown away by this sport and what the guys were doing. Not to mention jumping out of a helicopter anyway is fun, even if there's no skiing involved. And I set my intention there and then that I want to get into the sport, and this is something that I want to be able to do with my friends. So that was, yeah, just 6 years ago, 5.5 years ago. So that's a huge step. And so the impetus to get into the sport, as I said, was heli skiing, and my 9th day of skiing ever was heli skiing. I don't think there are many people on the planet that could say that. So the jump from 0 to heli skiing took 9 days. I'm trying to squeeze in the jump from never skiing to skiing in the Olympics in 5-6 years. So similar levels of madness, I would say, but they're two completely different things. The equipment they use for heli skiing is huge skis. The turns are completely different. The equipment that I'm using for racing is basically the Formula One of skiing. Boots that took 7 hours to grind out to match my feet. Skis with 30-meter turning radiuses that are incredibly sharp, that's almost sliced my thumb off 2 weeks ago. And just a lot of learning and technique. And it's part of the process that I'm still in the midst of right now. I like to do the crazy things. I like to do the things that I think make fun stories. I am also very motivated by the things that people say are impossible and that it will never happen, such as getting to the Olympics. So yeah, I think the description would be I'm the crazy one. Very cold. When I my first day of skiing was the middle of February 2016 in Whistler, Canada. I was there DJing at a party, and for maybe 10 years prior to that moment, I'd been living in Asia, so living in the eternal summer and living on beaches and never really experiencing winter. So to go from that to being out on the mountain, first thing I noticed was how cold it was and how challenging that was. But also just the sensation of beginning to ski at the age of 32, the sensation of sliding across snow without the ability to stop yourself and control yourself is very unnerving and actually quite scaring. My first day I just skied the same green run over and over and over again, just to limit the variables, to try to see if I could improve. And I think I remember my first run, I fell 27 times on the screen run. And by the end of that day, bruised both ego and physically, I think I was able to get down only falling 7 times. So for me, that was progress. And I have like an engineering mindset. I went to university, studied electrical engineering. So if there's a way to measure something and then improve with that, then that's progress. And I felt that I achieved something that day. Yeah, I had a lesson with a group for 2 hours, and then just took those concepts and see what I could do by myself afterwards. I love speed. I love the ability to be on a mountain and with no motor, just be shooting down the hill at over 110, 120 kilometers an hour. I love the fact that skiing nearly always happens in beautiful places. I love the fact that I've spent a lot of time in cities, I've spent a lot of time in beautiful tropical environments. I haven't spent a big chunk of my life in the mountains, so for me it's still very new and exotic. And I love the fact that it's a sport that inherently requires you to be fit and active and outdoors and up early in the morning for the great skiing, the great snow conditions. So coming from a life of being an entertainer, a DJ, where basically I live my life in basement nightclubs and festivals and on planes, being out in the mountains feels like a great change from that life. Yeah, I tend to motivate myself by numbers. So we've already spoken about falling 27 times and then falling 7 times, or going at 110 or 120 kilometers an hour. I use a lot of apps, my watch to track the number of runs, my maximum speed, and I use numbers to basically motivate myself to get out there, which is very helpful because ski racing is all about numbers. It's about the clock at the bottom of the hill. And so I'm motivated by progress and feeling like I'm getting better at the sport. And so it's very easy for me to kind of motivate myself to the hill on a day where I may be slightly injured or tired or bruised or whatever else, just to keep going. One of the great things about having a short period of time to get to where I'm going is that it's all or nothing. It's not like I'm a 12-year-old that's been racing already for 7 years and the Olympics are still going to be another 7 years away, and sometimes these really long-term projects can be hard to maintain motivation throughout. As you said, I literally have 5 years, 6 years from first skiing in a mountain to getting to the Olympics, and less than 2 years from first deciding that I'm going to do this properly and try to ski race to getting to the Olympics. So it's an intense project which requires all of my attention and energy. Yeah, so I have had several coaches in my story. I'm currently here in Austria training at the Shield Race Camp in South-Eldon. I have a coach back in Jackson. I've worked with a coach in Montana and at Mount Hood in Oregon, which is where we do summer training in the US. I do have a mentor. The pilot from the 1988 Jamaican bobsled team, Dudley Stokes, is someone that I speak to at least every week. And he has the experience of going to 6 Olympic Winter Games, and obviously being the pioneer for the Jamaican winter sports. And so we speak often, and he helps me navigate like any of the complexities of dealing with the Jamaican Olympic Association or any of the bureaucratic stuff that comes with doing a sport at this level. And he's incredibly helpful. I love skiing. The only reason I'm going to the Olympics is because I'm addicted to skiing. I enjoy being out there every day, and it's so much fun. I will definitely continue to ski after the Olympics. And I really hope that my story of going from never having skied out there to taking my first lesson on a mountain at the age of 32 to getting to the Olympics within 6 years can inspire other people to maybe consider taking up skiing, even if they're in their 20s and they've never skied, or in their 50s and never skied, or in their 60s and never skied. So I would assume that there'd be a lot of work that I would do with my sponsors after the games, maybe a roadshow around either Europe or North America to help inspire other people with my story to get into skiing. And so I've kind of budgeted for at least a year after the games to do that. I think my advice is more general. in that, as you said, it can happen. It can be done. I think a lot of people are self-limiting in believing that something might be too hard or unachievable. Part of my motivation in getting to the Olympics is the fact that so many people told me that it would be impossible. So many people told me that you would need a lifetime of training to get there. And I think when you start to peel back what are the requirements for any project in life, and break down that project into smaller components that are each themselves achievable or attainable, then having that mentality to approach big problems can help you kind of work through them and get there. So I hope that makes sense. So as I said, the first day of skiing, what I really noticed was that it's much colder than being on a beach in Thailand, or being in the city in Hong Kong where it's 35 degrees and 100% humidity all the time. I was in Montana training. I had a training session booked with Lisa Densmore-Ballard, who is a Masters World Cup Globe winner. And I don't know why, but every time I've skied in Montana, I've had extra problems with my toes. I'm 197 centimeters tall, so my extremities get cold. In particular, every time I race or train at this one mountain, Big Sky, I have this issue. So I shared a chairlift with my coach, and I was talking about how I was struggling with my toes. And I'm sure lots of the people that are watching are skiers and have had the same experience, but when you're actually trying to learn, it's important to have the feeling of the sensation of what's going on. Otherwise, you're blind, basically. You have no feeling. And she said, I've tried all of the heated socks on the market, and this is the only one that works for me. And they are awesome for races because they have like a low form factor with the battery that just kind of folds in neatly. And you should try Lenz. I'm not sure what, I mean, I knew that there were heated clothes. You can also get heated boots, ski boots. Some of the ski boots build it into them, such as the Salomon Max and stuff like that. For me, I just hadn't gotten around to like looking into it. It's always one of those things where you would be in incredible pain, look it up, and then the next day maybe it wouldn't be so cold, so you would forget about it. And then a couple of days later, you'd be in pain again. So the first time I put everything on. So I put the socks on, I put the gloves on, and I put the vest on. So I was sweating. And it was just great to be in a cold day, even though it was in May in Kaprun here. It was still a cold day and would be a day where I would struggle with my toes. It just felt nice to have the ability to still feel my toes after having been out there and standing around, as we are quite a lot when we're training or discussing something with the coach, but still have that sensation of feeling and touch in my toes even after having been out there for hours. And it's a total game changer. Absolutely. So one of the things that happens is almost every race that I've been to, first of all, we go out and we inspect the course. So we'll go out there and have a look at the course at slow speed. We're not racing it, but just to understand where there may be a complicated turn. Typically, I'm starting quite far back in the pack, so I may run 70th or 80th or something like that, which means there's a lot of waiting around before it's my turn to go. I've had many races where I've been out there and I've watched the first 4 or 5 guys go down, who are typically the fastest guys, and then I'm already freezing cold and my toes can't feel anything. And so it puts me in a really bad situation where I need to get heat back into my toes before I can actually race myself. So I would typically go into the lodge, take the boots off, try to sit in front of a fire, and try to time it to get back out in time for my run. And there have been many instances where I've very nearly missed my race because of this cold toe problem. And I'm also not getting that experience of watching other races all the way through the course for those hour or so before I race, because I'm sitting in the lodge and I'm cold. Having the heated socks allows me to stay out there for the entire time until it's my time to race. So it means that I'm less likely to miss my race, which is quite important. It also means I get the additional information from watching all of the other races. And actually it means that if I have 4 hours of coaching, I don't have to waste a half an hour in the middle of those 4 hours to get back in, to heat my toes up, to go back out for the second half. So it actually saves me money in that regard if you think about the cost of coaching, if I'm losing a half an hour every day because my toes are cold. So it's definitely a game changer.
睇完呢個訪問，係咪有少少衝動想學下滑雪，感受一下 Benji 所講嗰種感受呢？嗱，佢今年38，用咗6年時間。佢同一般打工仔冇分別嘅啫喎，日頭就係金融才俊，夜晚就蘭桂坊做 DJ。話唔定你唔需要咁多時間呢，會唔會下一屆輪到你啊？今集就講到呢度，下一集我哋再見，拜拜。好啦，係時候飲杯咖啡嚇。臨走嘅時間呢，記住撳個 subscribe， 起個 like， 夾個啷啷。我哋下集有新嘅節目上嘅時間就即刻通知到你啦嚇。今集到呢度嚇，下集再見啦，拜拜。